I've been told what I do best, and I do take pride in, and gosh, I labor over every word sometimes, is writing. No matter what it is, what part of journalism you go into, writing is still what separates people. It always will separate people. There's no question.
Welcome to the Next Level Journalist, where you will hear from some of the best journalists in the business or who have been there, done that, and willing to share with you what they've learned so you can get better, faster. My guest today is someone I've known since 2005 when I was an intern at the Fox affiliate in Cincinnati. He was a sports producer at the time. Today he's the sports director at that station. Mr. Joe Danneman, thank you so much for taking time out today.
It's funny. I don't know if you can see my smile during the introduction there, man. Thinking back to 2005, I don't know if you remember what I used to always tell you. I used to always tell you, you're going to be a star in this business. And look at you now, man. You're a star in this business in a different way.
Who would have thought we'd have a platform like this some 15 years later to just talk about, what we've done, where we've been, and you continuing to kill it in what you do. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about your career journey. You've covered a little bit of everything in the sports area. So you tell us, give us an idea of what got you interested in this career, when you pursued it, where you went to school at, and just bring us up to date.
Well, I think anybody who starts any career has second thoughts about what they're going to do. So when I was graduating high school and it was time to pick a major for college, it was, what do I want to do with my life? Because at that point, you had to start thinking about what you're going to do with your career, because you have to go into whatever discipline you're going to go into in college. And so I had three choices in my mind. I come from a family that has a medical background, so that was something my family was pushing for. I always was interested in teaching and being involved with young people, so that was something that I thought of as well. But my passion, my entire life, was always being around sports, and knowing that my life wasn't going to take me in a sports career, whether it be as a player or a coach. I didn't have that kind of ability. The only other avenue I could think of being around sports was to do it through a journalism lens. And so when it came time to do the whole college thing and pick where I wanted to go to school, I decided I wanted to go for it. I wanted to go for what I thought I was going to wake up every day for 35 years, maybe 40 years, and enjoy the heck out of every single day. Because sure, there's more security in the medical field. There's more security in being a teacher. Those jobs are always there. They're not as competitive as the jobs we try to get in this business. But if I was going to go for it, and you live life once, and I was going to be sitting in that proverbial rocking chair at 75 years old and thinking back to my life, I wanted to think back to going to London to cover an NFL game, going to the Super Bowl, going to the Final Four, going to the college football national championship, crisscrossing the country and the world, covering events and doing the things that I've done. This is exactly why I got into the business, is for lifetime moments and experiences and seeing things in places I might not see otherwise. So when you look back at the totality of what you've done with your career, there's a lot of grinding. This is a grinding business. There's no question about that. But the big events, the payoffs that you get to do once or twice a year, those to me are the lifetime memories that I will keep, that I would not have gotten those experiences otherwise. So that's a big part of why I decided to do what I do. And I haven't second guessed it, haven't regretted it, and haven't looked back since. So the first step of my ladder was picking the right major and picking the right school. And I know everyone watching this won't go to a quote unquote, journalism powerhouse like I did. I'm very proud of the fact that I went to Syracuse. Syracuse is considered one of the blue bloods of journalism. And so that was my foot in the door right there, Kyle. That was what got me interviews right out of college. Was I had that on my resume, and people were impressed by that, knowing that I was going to come with the kind of training that was unique to other places. Now that was 20 years ago. Things have changed. Other schools have caught up. Other schools now have the same kind of ability to train and have students ready coming right out of college to enter the workforce and go right into a newsroom and perform. but then it was different. So my first step was just getting the degree from a great place. And that got me my first interview. So when it was time to leave college and start looking for jobs, I started calling people through the Syracuse, my alumni database, and making cold calls to them for advice. And one of the people I called was Dan Horde, worked in Cincinnati. I'm from Cincinnati. He went to Syracuse. I went to Syracuse. So I called him just to pick his brain on what to do. And back then it was you made 35 DVDs and you sent them all over the country and hope that one news director would pick yours and you would get an interview. Now it's different. Now you have YouTube links and you can send them to everywhere you want. I mean, back then, Kyle, it was $20 to send each DVD out there. We didn't have that kind of money to send out there. You were spending $1,000 just sending your tape all over the country, hoping somebody would buy it. Now you can send them anywhere you want. But I called Dan, and in our conversation of me asking Dan what to do, he gave me advice. He also said, we're always hiring here entry-level positions. It's not what you want, but the unique situation I was in, I was graduating college early. I was graduating college at 20 years old. I wasn't sure if I was ready to move to Montana or New Mexico or Maine or Vermont, pick your random small market. So I decided to take him up on that. I applied for a entry-level position at FOX19 in Cincinnati, and I interviewed. I got the job. I was a news writer. I was the lowest of low there can be in a newsroom. I was the one back then writing scripts for the anchors to read, but my news director knew what I wanted to do. He knew sports was my passion. For me, this was about getting experience in the business, getting a foot in the door, and also making money, so that it was time a couple years down the road for me to look for sports jobs that would be there. So when it came time for me, and I kind of had my fill of being a news writer, and it was time for me to start looking for jobs, it just so happened I got lucky. I caught my first break. Our sports producer at the time decided he wanted to leave the business and go do something else. And so I was a natural fit from move from news writer to sports producer. So I moved back just a couple of feet in the newsroom to a different spot. And I was the guy who was shooting games, editing, doing interviews, doing everything that a sports anchor or sports reporter would do, but not be on TV. After doing that for a couple of years, I caught another break where they said, okay, we think you're ready to start doing some reporting, whether it be after a Bengals game or a big high school game or a big college game. We think you can go do a post-game report on whatever was happening there. So I started doing that for a few years. And then I hit another glass ceiling. So after being at Fox 19 and kind of seeing the newsroom from every position imaginable except anchor, I needed anchor experience. I knew that. I knew I wasn't going to get it at Fox 19. I wasn't ready. They weren't going to put someone on the desk who had never done it before. So I left. I left town and went to a smaller market. I left a market that's in the top 40 to go to Evansville, Indiana, which is right around 100, to get my first anchoring experience. And that was an awesome job, an awesome experience. I signed a 3-year contract, but after a year and a half of doing well there and getting that kind of experience, Fox 19, same parent company as I was working for in Evansville, called me back and said, we want you now to do this here at our station. So I came back after a year and a half, and I've been an anchor, sports anchor at Fox 19 for approaching 10 years now. And became sports director in 2000 and I think 13. So it's been sports director for 7 years, sports anchor for 9 years, but that was my kind of different path. Everybody takes a path in this business. There's no right way or wrong way. Mine was different. Mine was unique, but it got me to where I want to be, and that's a sports anchor in my hometown.
So as a sports director, give our viewers an idea of what exactly you do on a daily basis, how many different hats you have to wear, because it's not like you just show up, read off that teleprompter and go home. There's a couple of things that you have to do in between the time that you get in there and that you clock out for the day, if you ever do clock out for the day.
So I'll give you an anecdote from my career. So my first day in Evansville, I walk in and I am taking over for a legend in Evansville, a sports director who had been there forever. And I was kind of the heir apparent. I was going to learn from him. And then when he kind of sailed off into the sunset, I was going to take over as a sports director in Evansville. So they said, come in 9 o'clock Monday morning. get your desk set up. We'll do all the paperwork. You'll meet some people. We'll go to lunch. We'll do all those things, all the things that you would do for a normal person on their first day of work, right? I walk in at 9 a.m. and they said, Mike called in sick. Here's your camera. And so didn't even know how to log into my computer at my new station. And I was supposed to fill 3 minutes at 6 o'clock and 3 minutes at 10 o'clock. And it was 9 in the morning. So I'm like, okay, so I'm looking at now 14-hour day. Don't even know how to use their equipment. Don't even know anybody here at the newsroom. Don't even know how to log on. And I have to go figure this out. And so you did, it's a sink or swim kind of business, and you figured it out. And people helped, obviously. People helped me along the way of figuring things out that day. But yeah, that's the reality of it. For anybody watching this, that's the reality of it. Yeah, you walk into a sports position, and even here in Cincinnati, top 40 market, there's only 2 people in my department. It's myself and Jeremy Rao, who's my coworker. We're unique in that way. The other stations here in Cincinnati have several more people than we do. But certainly not the staffs they had back in the 80s and 90s when you would see up to 10 people in a sports department. But the reality is, when you go to a small market, you're going to be 1 of 2 people, and you're going to be taking on the world by yourselves. And so you walk in and you have to go out and shoot everything, do all your own interviews, shoot all your own highlights, edit all your own scripts, edit all your own video, front all your stuff, anchor your stuff, report on your own stuff. It seems like a lot, and it is, but it's like anything else. The more you do it, the more efficient, the faster you become while doing it. So something that used to take me, if I had to walk into a news station right now and do a 3-minute sportscast, I could do it. I could have it ready in 20 minutes, But, 15 years ago, that would take me 8 hours. It's just, it's one of those things that takes time. But you have to get into this understanding that when you do it, they're going to be relying on you to be self-sufficient and to do everything. You're not just there to be on TV. You're there to create TV, create content. You're the content creator, not just a host. And that's the most important thing I think people need to understand when they get in this business is you're not just the person, hosting the stuff on television. You're the person going out and making television happen and finding interesting things to talk about on TV.
And you already mentioned just about how Syracuse prepared you, to hit the ground running. And, myself, I wasn't as prepared as I thought I was. And I ultimately lost my first job, not to put, that fear into people, but that's, the story you just shared. You could show up on the first day of the job of a brand new place, and that's the reality of it. You're expected to be ready to hit the ground running. So what would you tell someone who's, aspiring to get into this business about, okay, you need to do this in order to break through and be prepared?
You have to be versatile, I think, is the absolute most important thing. You can't be just good at 1 or 2 things or even just a few things. You have to be able to do everything at a functional level. And when you are breaking through in this business, and look, when you go to a smaller market, the expectation isn't that you're going to be perfect. The expectation isn't that you're going to go on TV and host your show or report from whatever your event, like you're some kind of network anchor or reporter. They want someone they can rely on. They want work ethic. They want versatility. And they want someone who's a grinder. And I think those are the most important things someone can have. And when you sell yourself, that's how I sold myself when I got the job in Evansville. When I got the job in Evansville, it was predetermined it was going to somebody else. But when I interviewed, I said, you're going to get somebody here who's here for one reason. I'm coming here to work. And that's it. This is before I had kids. This is when I could really dive myself straight into the job at all times. And so I told them, I'm coming here for one reason, and that's to work. And I think if you sell yourself in a way that you're versatile, you can add value to your newsroom in more ways than just a typical sports reporter, that you can do things that can help a news station in several ways, whether it be social media, whether it be, on air, whether it be also, something we're doing now is a lot of things that we call OTT, which is over the top television, which is not just the stuff you see on TV all the time, but we're doing podcasts. We're doing online specials, those kinds of things that if you sell yourself in a way that you become valuable to the newsroom as just, not just somebody you plug and play as a sports guy or a sports, someone working in sports, but someone who can add, unique value to the newsroom that they may not have before, whether it be with something like a podcast, whether it be something like, a special that you're going to put on Facebook Live or things like that. New creative ideas that add value to the newsroom, I think, add value to yourself. And the more versatile you can be, and the more value you can provide, and the more multiple you can be to your station by providing these kinds of things, I think makes you more valuable and helps you stand out from other people. Because, getting your foot in the door, getting the attention of a news director by sending them your YouTube link of, what you look like on TV, sure, that's going to catch their eye. That's important. Those things will always be important in our business. But once you do get the opportunity of you've caught their eye, now you're having a conversation with them, that's where you have to win. And the way you win is by selling yourself as value. And by selling yourself as value is by being versatile. And by being versatile is by being able to do everything well and understanding that you're going to get better at what you do. But by selling yourself as someone who can add value and versatility to the newsroom, I think is going to make you different than other people they talk to.
I love that, Joe, and I hope people are picking up on that word value. You yourself, you bring so much valuable to the team. I know Jeremy brings value, and you guys are just a two-man team. And there's other stations in this Cincinnati market who have half a dozen people in their department, and yet you guys still are able to compete, at a high level with any station in this market. And I'm not just saying that because you and Jeremy are both friends of mine, but you guys do. You guys work your butt off, you grind, and you bring tons of value to every sports cast. It's not just reading highlights and then calling it a day. You guys really invest yourself in the job and just bring so much value. I love that word, all the intangibles that you talked about in that response. So tip of the cap to you, someone who's always bringing value to not only your job, but this conversation. And so with that in mind, what can you tell aspiring TV journalists about their reel? You mentioned the importance of a reel in that response earlier on, but let's break down that demo reel because it's so important for aspiring journalists to have the right stuff on their reel. What would you tell them as far as what it takes to put together a good reel, what to do with their reel, what to add, where to put things, and so on?
Whew, that's hard because you know how long it's been since I've done a reel? It's been a real long time.
That's true.
So I'm not exactly sure what they look. Okay, so I'll stop myself there because I do help interns all the time put together their reels.
Right.
And I don't know if, though, I'm stuck in a formula that was popular in 2005 to 2010. I don't know if things have changed. I can also think back to when we hired Jeremy. I was part of that process, so they had me looking at all the reels back then, and that was just 5-6 years ago. And so the reels hadn't changed much from when I first did them to when Jeremy did his just a few years ago. So the most important thing to me, if I'm a news director and I'm looking at someone, I want to see how they look on TV. That's what I have to see right off the top. How does this person look on TV? Do they look comfortable? Do they look uncomfortable? Do they look like a natural? Do they look like someone who can improve? So what I want to see off the top is, especially in the role of a sports person, where I think sports people separate themselves on what they do outside of the studio. Anybody can walk in and sit at a desk and read highlights. Okay, that's part of the job. But to me, I think what the modern newsroom is looking for is someone who can push the envelope outside of a traditional sports person, someone who views themselves as more of a reporter than a sports anchor, someone who does stories that play up in a newscast as opposed to just the traditional sports block. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's what I want to see. So what I want to see off the top is a montage of 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8 stand-ups, quick stand-ups, what you look like on TV, how you deliver. So I want to see you out in the field, whatever you're talking about. I'm not even listening to what you're talking about. I just want to hear your delivery, see what you look like on TV, make sure you look comfortable on television, that when you do step in front of a camera and are doing it to get paid, that you do look comfortable. So that's what I want to see right off the top. Boom, right there. I want to see a montage of stand-ups of you in the field. If you're a college student, those are obviously going to be taped. If you're, a person who's already started out at a job and maybe going to a next level job, I want to see some live shots. That's where we separate people, right? That's where we separate people. The good from the great, or how you do when there's no script and you're kind of making it up as you go and you're talking extemporaneously. That's where we talk about people that make a difference. So that's what I want to see at the beginning. Montage, what you look like on TV. After that, traditionally, it was, you would show a little couple clips of you doing anchoring, that kind of thing. To me, I would move that back. I want to see what you do with a feature story. I want to see montage of stand-ups. Then I want to see your best work. I want to see how you write to your video, how you edit, and how you shoot. And we get all those things. And you're talking about the modern journalist here. You're talking about the modern TV guy. What's the one place where we can see all your work at once? It's a package.
Yep.
We can see your shooting skills. We can see your writing skills. We can see your editing skills. We can see your voiceover skills. Okay? All those things, guys, again, understand you're going to get better. You're going to improve. The stuff I did 15 years ago compared to stuff I do now is night and day. Mm-hmm. But that's somebody who has that much time and that much experience. But I want to see someone who can functionally put that thing together to get a starting job in this business. I want someone who has a piece that if I'm a news director, I say, ooh, I want to run that in my B block of the newscast. I don't want to run that in sports. I think that human interest story will play well with my audience and not wait until my audience is dwindling to the end of the show before we get to sports.
Right.
There's always going to be material for you to use in sports. There's always going to be games, highlights, sound bites, things you can talk about there. What can you do that I can play higher in a newscast? If I'm a news director, that's what I'm looking for. So I want to see a montage of what you look like on TV, and then I want to see your best, maybe 2 feature stories right there, and then on the end you can put your anchoring just so I can see what you look like in studio.
So Joe, what would you credit your success to, the longevity that you've had in this business? 20 years in the business. I know you said you're one of the more tenured people at your station, tenured people even in the Cincinnati market, which is crazy to think about at just age 40. But what has contributed to your success and what makes you unique?
So it's hard for me to talk about myself. I don't like talking about myself. I don't enter myself for any kind of awards. I don't like that. I didn't get in the business to get awards or anything like that. I got in the business for different reasons. I've been told what I do best, and I do take pride in, and gosh, I labor over every word sometimes, is writing. No matter what it is, what part of journalism you go into, writing is still what separates people. It always will separate people. There's no question. And my writing has improved dramatically from where I was when I first started to where I am now. And that's one of the bastions of where I went to college, was learning to be an effective TV writer, because TV writing is a completely different animal than any other writing you do. But once I got into it and I learned to really write to my video and write creatively and write to emotion, that's when it really unlocked what I think I do well and what I like to do going forward. People always ask you all the time, oh, what do you want to do when you grow up? Here I am, I'm 40 years old, I'm grown up. But, I still have, a good part of my career ahead of me. And I think if I had a dream job, it would be to be Tom Rinaldi at ESPN.
Yeah.
The guy who does feature stories and, does these emotional things and, really, engages viewers. It's not necessarily sitting in a studio and doing high school highlights. That's fun. I enjoy that. But, feature stories, writing and telling someone's story, to me, still is the most exciting part of the business, because that's the only place I really feel like you make a difference. The other things I talked about, going into medicine or being a teacher, you can see every single day you're affecting people, you're helping people. I always wonder, like, am I doing anything that's helping anybody? But then when you tell a great story of someone who's done something amazing, and maybe it does inspire somebody to do something, maybe it does hit somebody differently, then you are making a little bit of a difference. So to encapsulate your question, I think I'm a good writer. I've been told I'm a good writer. I should say that. So I'll do that. And the other most important thing that I take pride in myself is I'm a grinder. I work hard. And I think anybody should take pride in that, because if you want to be successful in this business, you have to work hard. You work weird hours. Like looking forward to this weekend, there's a state championship game at noon, and we don't go on until 10 o'clock. So, you're going to work a long day on a weekend, but I signed up for it. I knew it. I knew I was getting into. I knew you were going to have to grind a little bit. So to me, I think that's an important part of who I am and what I am. And, I can't get that out of me. It's just part of being competitive in this business. You have to grind to be successful.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, again, two guys, that means if one of you guys is off, the other guy's doing everything. So there's no doubt you have to be a hard worker in your position. Joe, how did you develop? You mentioned writing. How was that skill something that you feel like you've developed over time?
Yeah, mine came from a mentor. In fact, two of them. So two people I worked with that, I would edit all of their stuff. This is back when I was a sports producer, and you had someone you would hand a script to and they would edit it for you. That doesn't exist now. You write your story and then you edit it yourself, which in a way is good, because you know what you're writing to and you know how you want it to play out. And, when you're writing, you're thinking about the edit and how it's going to play. And I think that's important to kind of see a finished product in your head as you're writing it, so you know what it's going to look like. But I paid so much attention to the scripts of Dan Horde, who's now the voice of the Bengals and voice of the Bearcats, and Brian Giesenslaw, who I worked with, who now is pregame and postgame host for the Cincinnati Reds and Columbus Blue Jackets on Fox Sports Ohio. So two obvious guys who are very successful in their careers, and there's no reason to doubt why. It's because they're really talented and they were great writers. And the most important thing that I took from them was just the open to a package is so critical. It's so critical. It's finding a way to tell your story without yet revealing what the story is, to me. I know it's a hard thing. It's an abstract thought to think about. But to me, I try to find a great piece of video, or, like one long piece of video that I can write to, where I'm doing a story right now, to give you an example, kind of a tangible example, on a cross-country runner who's a special needs student athlete, who one of her teammates decided to give up being competitive and stay back and run with her so she can be a guide on the course and a motivator on the course. And I have this long shot of 30 seconds of them finishing the race, and the special needs girl kind of getting lost, and the other girl kind of tugging her arm, pointing in the right direction, and the crowd cheering, and they're going into the finish line, and everybody coming to that crescendo moment. So I'm writing to each moment in that video, kind of almost not a play-by-play, but writing to specific moments that are happening as she tugs her in the right direction. And the whole motif is that it doesn't matter if she finishes in last place, that these two people found their place. This is their place, like in life, is, the special needs student found her place by being part of a team. And the senior who came back to run with her found her place because she wants to go into special education after she graduates high school. So it's two people, and the motif is finishing the race. Doesn't matter what place they finish in, because they found their place. So I'm telling the story here, like in 30 seconds, almost is like, this soft opening to me. And that to me has been very effective. And I learned that from them. I'm not even sure they really meant to do that when they wrote, but I took that. I saw how effective a great open to a story is. And so I'll literally, Kyle, sometimes for 30 seconds of my script, I'll be sitting in front of a computer for an hour, trying to find the right words, watching the video, writing to video. Does that work? And the most important thing people can do is, when you're writing a script, whether you're going to voice it over for a package, whether you're going to go in the field and report, or whether you're going out to the desk to anchor, is reading your script out loud. That's so important. Not only is that important because you have to write how you talk, and when you deliver it, you have to be able to deliver it, but also it's reps. It's reps of how you want to deliver it, with voice inflection, pausing, pacing, that kind of thing. So those are all things I take into account when I write, but I think learning from them and having that in my life and in my career, whether they know it or not, and I've told them several times since, I think it's important to tell your mentor sometimes, hey man, I learned this from you. And without working under you and with you, I never would have learned that. So I learned that from them, the importance of a great open to writing a piece. And to me, that's what separates a good piece from a great piece. And that's something I took from them.
All right, let's have a little fun with these questions now. I know at least this first one will be fun. So, at least for us, what's the most embarrassing thing that comes to mind in regards to your TV career, whether that be a live moment or at the station moment? What comes to mind in 20 years of doing this? One of the most embarrassing moments that you can think of, or if you have more than one that you'd like to share.
The funny thing is, and I'm proud of this, that after 20 years, I really don't have anything that I can't share. So that, I've always been very wary of when you're around a camera or around a microphone. And we found that out recently here in Cincinnati. One mistake can cost you your career. 15, 20-year career can be gone in 15 or 20 seconds.
Yep.
Just like that. So I don't have anything that's like something that I've done that I'm like super embarrassed to tell. But one of the most embarrassing things that happened to me, and there are a lot of funny things that have happened, and things happen and you can't control it. It's live television. That's the great part. And I'll preface this before I go into the story I'll tell. People that are getting into this business, when wild things, and I want you to talk to Jeremy about this. Jeremy Rao, when you do talk to him,
Right.
The idea of embracing live TV and embracing being human and making mistakes and pulling back the curtain when things don't go well, sometimes you really can't cover for it, so you just laugh with the audience. Just laugh with them, understand that it's a mistake, it happens, whatever, and you laugh at it, you laugh at whatever happened, and you keep moving. And I think people appreciate that sometimes, instead of trying to hide it or cover it up. Sometimes if you call it out, it's even funnier. So learning to not be so mortified by mistakes and learning to pivot on them and capitalize on them sometimes makes for great TV moments.
Yeah.
But the most embarrassing thing that happened to me was, this was right when I started anchoring, when I came back to Fox 19, and I was at the desk and I was sitting right next to our main anchor, because right out of sports, we went to crosstalk at the end and finished up the show. So I'm sitting almost shoulder to shoulder with our main anchor, and they come out to me, and a little, music stinger plays, the animation, and da da da, and then it pops up to me, and I start talking, and I know it before it even happens. Sometimes there's a panic you can feel in the room when your mic's not on. Okay, people just they start running in circles. Nobody knows what to do. All you got to do really is just stop, pull out your little mic pack and turn it on. It takes 5 seconds and it goes on, and you make fun of yourself like, oh, look at the idiot who forgot to turn his mic on. Anyway, then you get back to work. But people just panic and try to make it happen that no one can see what's actually happening. Okay, so the funny thing is my mic was on, but for some reason the control room couldn't find my mic. So one of our production people literally got on the crowd and was crawling behind me to try to get to my back pocket and turn this thing on. And I hear from behind me, it's on. I'm like, you don't have to whisper. No one can hear you. No one can hear my mic, so you don't have to whisper. So we're up to 15 seconds now of dead air TV. So our main anchor takes her mic and puts it on my lapel. I'm like, okay, we've got her figured out. And I keep talking. So now I got 2 mics on, and neither one is working. So now I've got 2 mics on, and I'm still talking, and it looks like this to people on TV. No one knows what's happening. Okay, so they come running out. So now we're at 30 to 40 seconds of just me on camera with my face red and no audio. Somebody runs out a 3rd microphone, and they throw this thing on. So I got 3 microphones on, and finally that one works. And it was really embarrassing, and it was really chaotic. But looking back on it, you can see I'm still smiling, because you survive that stuff and you move on. But at the moment, that one was embarrassing on TV, and that one was hard. It was funny thing was I got an email from my news director, what the heck just happened? I'm like, it's not my fault. The microphone was on. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But yeah, that one was interesting. And that's the hard part of working in your hometown, because your family sees it, your friends see it, and you're getting texts and emails, and Twitter's going crazy. And yeah, so you kind of have to learn to kind of grin and bear it on that one a little bit.
All right, Joe. Thanks for sharing that. How about the most challenging challenging moment in this business, whether that be the most challenging story or the most challenging event that you were part of or the most challenging season that you faced and that made you better, that you learned from and got better from, the most challenging thing that you had to face during your time as a sports anchor or reporter?
So I'll give you two because two come to mind and I can't separate the two. The first one is quickly in 2009 when we went through the recession. I was a sports producer, sports anchor. They eliminated my position and they moved me over to a news reporter. That's when they cut the sports department from 4 people to what it is now at 2 people. So I lost my job, but they wanted to keep me. And that goes back to being versatile and being valuable. They didn't want to lose me, but they couldn't continue to keep the job I had in sports. So they moved me to a news reporter, I did not want to do that. I didn't want to do that. I had to go knock on doors of people who lost sons and daughters, in car accidents, overseas, that kind of thing. That's not what I got into the business for. But I had a newborn. I needed paychecks. I needed a job, that kind of thing. So I did that for 9 months. That was a challenge. But again, that goes back to being versatile, and that goes back to being valuable. And I learned a lot from those 9 months. And I got a lot of really valuable reps. I really did. I was live on TV 3 times a day, getting those reps that I wouldn't get, necessarily in sports all the time. The other one was, and this is the one I tell often, and it's a long story that I'll keep really short. I was at a college basketball game when I was working in Evansville, and it was, think of your biggest rivalry. Think of, Kentucky, Louisville in basketball, or Kentucky, Indiana, or, Ohio State, Michigan in football, Duke, North Carolina in basketball. Pick your favorite rivalry. This was that locally. It was 2 divisions, 2 schools, like 2 of the top Division II schools in the country were playing each other in a huge game, sold out crowd. And I was down there to, cover the game, do live shots on the game, and talk about, all the fun stuff that go with a sporting event. A guy collapsed on the court and died. And so you talk about pivoting from what's supposed to be a fun night of reporting on this great rivalry basketball game to then reporting on something you can't prepare for. And you're a young person, kind of just starting a job in a new place, and you get this thrown at you, something you've never done before, something you've never seen, and you have to report on it. It's a challenge. It's hard. And you're dealing with real human emotions and, real human decisions. There's a lot of decisions that went into my reporting that night of reporting if he's dead, or if he's at the hospital, information that I knew, but wasn't yet confirmed by the right people. So you had to make a lot of really hard decisions, split-second decisions on live TV, no script, talking about things that are hard to talk about. So that was one of the big challenges. And to this day, that has been my hardest challenge on air that I've ever had to deal with. I've dealt with some really difficult playoff losses here in Cincinnati. That 2015 Bengals loss to the Steelers, that was a hard thing to deal with here in Cincinnati. But you're talking about a football game. Mm-hmm. You step back, you look at it. It's a football game, whatever. I'm talking about real life and death stuff in that situation that I dealt with. So that to me was probably the biggest challenge I've ever faced. And I wish I never faced it, because the guy who collapsed and died was a huge personality, a big soul, and a good kid. But I learned a lot that night about myself, professionally and personally. And it's one of those things that, when you do face those situations, anybody who gets in this business will face something similar to that challenge. And, it's stepping back. It's in reacting in the right way that you really can't prepare for. But I think you find yourself surprised at what you can do in moments when you have to focus up and deliver something you don't want to deliver. You learn about yourself a little bit. And I learned a lot about myself professionally. And now I know no matter what happens, I can pretty much handle anything that comes in this business.
Well, Joe, no doubt that we learned a ton about you, a ton about journalism in general, just from your 20 plus years of experience doing what you do. So thank you so much for making time for this. And I feel like I know you well enough that this is your off day. You typically don't dress in the t-shirt like I do. You're typically a little more put together. Unlike me, when I was in the business, I'd be shorts underneath the desk and then threw on my jacket just in time. But again, knowing you, you're much more professional than, let's say, me.
Yeah, t-shirt today. I am the guy who does wear a full suit pretty much every day, just because I have to be ready. And things have changed. Things have changed. There's a lot of full body shots now in studios, not a lot of like sitting at a desk anymore. So you kind of have to be put together head to toe.
As always, Joe, awesome to see you, even if it is virtually. And thank you again so much for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, all the above, because it is as applicable to me today and what I do than when I was in TV. So those who watch this who are pursuing TV, rewatch this, get the notepad out again, and take down all that value that Joe delivered to us today. Thanks again, Joe.
So many people helped me get to where I am. I feel charged to give back in any way I can to young people trying to get into the business. So anytime you need me for anything, you know where to find me, my friend.
Appreciate you, Joe. And thank you for checking out this channel. If you found this content beneficial, I'd appreciate it if you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and share it with someone you think might find it beneficial as well. Because this channel was simply started and created to serve you, to help others grow, to learn how other successful TV journalists do or did it. So take what serves you so you can get better faster and reach your next level.